Welcome to a celebration of Nantucket Sound, and thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Audra Parker, the President and CEO of the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound. We're a nonprofit environmental organization based in Hyannis on Cape Cod, and our mission is the permanent protection and preservation of Nantucket Sound, the beautiful body of water that lies between Cape Cod and the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And this permanent preservation is particularly important because Nantucket Sound not only faces environmental threats, but it also has a split jurisdiction between federal and state water. And I'd like to show you on this map just that odd jurisdiction. So if you look at the center, or if you were looking at the center in the dark blue, those are federal waters controlled by the U.S. Department of the Interior, while the light blue area are state waters that run 3 miles from the shorelines of Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. And the state waters are protected by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as part of Massachusetts state ocean sanctuaries, while the federal waters are still wide open to development. And if you can go to the next chart, next map. No. Well, what I did want to show you was a map of the Massachusetts ocean sanctuaries. And if you look at those, there you go, thank you. You can see that the majority of the coastline is part of the Massachusetts Ocean Sanctuaries Act, while the waters that in the center of Nantucket Sound, again, that dark blue area that now shows up in white towards the bottom, is not part of that and is not protected, nor is the area outside of Boston Harbor. So our long-term mission, as I mentioned, is the permanent protection of Nantucket Sound, and we are trying to do that with a broad coalition of support by designating the Sound as a National Historic Landmark. And that is actually the highest level of historic protection possible. And it leverages the fact that in 2010, the U.S. Department of the Interior determined that Nantucket Sound is what's called a traditional cultural property because of its significance to the Wampanoag people, and that makes it eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places today. But a National Historic Landmark designation would actually recognize that rich tribal history in a more significant way and elevate the level of protection. So we've built a very strong coalition of support. We have environmental groups, fishing groups, chambers of commerce, historic preservation groups, tribal entities, and many, many others that are supporting this designation as a National Historic Landmark. We are pursuing 2 paths to do that. Through Congress, we are trying to enact legislation called the Nantucket Sound National Historic Landmark Act, and also administrative action through the U.S. Department of Interior to also achieve that National Historic Landmark designation. The legislation would also really increase the consistency between the protections that exist in the state waters and those that don't exist in the federal waters today, as well as protect traditional uses of Nantucket Sound, such as fishing and recreation, and finally provide environmental benefits to address some of the other issues facing the Sound, such as diminished water quality and habitat degradation. So we're excited to make progress in this area, and we're very thankful for all of our supporters, including the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. So with that, I'd like to introduce Paul Niedzwiecki, who's going to discuss the work of the Cape Cod Blue Economy Foundation tonight and the integral role that Nantucket Sound and the rest of our area's coastline plays in that. So a few words about Paul. As I mentioned, he's the CEO of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. He is a public policy professional and attorney with more than 2 decades of experience crafting environmental and economic policy on Cape Cod. So thank you for that, Paul. And he's also served as the executive director of the Cape Cod Commission, where he helped communities balance protection of the natural environment with economic growth. And as Barnstable's assistant town manager, he established the Cape's first growth incentive zone to bolster downtown Hyannis. Finally, he holds a degree in public administration from Suffolk University, as well as a JD from Suffolk University Law School. So with that impressive background, I'd like to welcome you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and we thank you for all the support you've given us in this designation for the sound on behalf of the Cape Cod Chamber. So we appreciate that. And I will get off the screen so we can start listening to you, which is why everyone's here tonight. And then I'll pop back on after you're done and we will take questions from the audience.
Great. That sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay, thank you.
So good evening. Happy to be here. And we're going to discuss the Cape Cod economy tonight. And I think what I've decided to do is to try to give a sense of the overall Cape Cod economy, put it in that context, then discuss the blue economy, which is very important and really is a major subsection of the overall Cape Cod economy. And then we're going to discuss tourism as that sort of medium blue industry that really fuels our overall economy in a seasonal way. So I'm going to try to attempt to share my screen at this point. Sorry about this.
No worries. I'm not sure if we lost Paul, but let's just give him a minute to pop back on and share his screen. I'm sure he has a lot of interesting things to tell us this evening.
Why don't we have everybody? Oh, here's Paul.
We lost you there for a second. Good to have you back.
You know, it's a system setting thing.
Okay.
So I'm back and hopefully it's going to work this time.
Okay, good.
There we go.
Yep,
So we're going to
be working.
So, okay, it's working. Excellent.
Perfect.
Looks great. Thank you, Paul.
So the Cape Cod economy, starting with that general overview, and we're going to use some of our friends at the Cape Cod Commission, some of their slides, so that we're consistent in the message that we give about the Cape Cod economy. So we have 229 year-round residents that live on the Cape. That's a 6% increase from 2010. It's 270,000 if you include the residents, the year-round residents of the islands. But you can see since 1970, we've had about a 14.2% increase of the population. We're becoming more diverse. We've got the Mashpee Wampanoags. The median age on the Cape is 55.7 compared to the Massachusetts average of just over 40 and the United States average of 39. 34% of the population is 65 years or older. That's compared to only 18% of the population on a statewide level. 13%, we've had a 13% decrease in public school enrollment from 2013 to 2024. So we're really starting to see that we're getting older, we're getting more retirees, second homeowners that are retiring to the Cape full time. So if we look at the places, sort of who we are, we've got over 500 miles of coastline. 80% of the homes are detached single family homes. More than 27,000 acres are in the Cape Cod National Seashore. And 86% of Cape Cod is already protected or developed. 36% of the homes are used seasonally. So that's, 37% of the housing stock on the Cape are second homes. And that means almost every economic challenge lands on us a little bit differently. And we've got 8 designated cultural districts. If we look at the economy, on average, the employment in the region it increases by about 33% in season. And you can see with that curve there, we go from around 85,000 people that are employed year round on the Cape to almost 115,000. So we have over 5 million visitors annually. And the labor force participation rate on Cape Cod is at 59%. So, which is lower because of the amount of retirees we have compared to the 67% in Massachusetts. Look at our top industries: healthcare and social assistance, retail, trade, accommodation, food services, construction, and professional and technical services. But most of those are supported by and are here in that degree because of the seasonal economy. And if we look at the median annual earnings on the Cape in total, it's about 48,000, which is under what the state average is. So what draws people to Cape Cod? And this is where we really get into why people come here. And they come here because of the environment and primarily because of the water. And I think as Audra laid out earlier in the presentation, Cape Cod is bounded by Cape Cod Bay on the north, Nantucket Sound on the south, the Atlantic Ocean on the east, and Buzzards Bay on the west. But it's really, Nantucket Sound is the only place that's not protected by the Massachusetts Ocean Sanctuaries Act. But that's why people come here. It's access to the coast, outdoor recreation, and environmental quality. So there are some challenges clearly that we're facing because of the nature of the Cape as a peninsula surrounded by water with a primarily seasonal economy. We're going to deal with the issues of climate change first, especially sea level rise. Housing situation is really at a crisis point on the Cape. You can see the median average wages are lower than the state average, but the real estate values have always been higher. And since the pandemic, it's really been out of control. The water quality and infrastructure, these are all economic issues for us. So quickly, if we looked at climate change, and climate change impacts every aspect of Cape Cod, the natural, built, and the community systems. And we've seen an increase in the average temperature since 1900 in Massachusetts of 4.6 to 8.2 degrees Fahrenheit. It's projected that average temperature is going to increase significantly. And we have three times the Northwest Atlantic waters are warming. We're warming 3 times faster. So we're really going to see these effects sooner than other parts of the country. If we look at rising seas, this is an interesting slide because that's a picture of Cape Cod, and those dark blue areas are really flood hazard zones that have been identified by the federal government. And there's $16 billion worth of total assessed property value in those dark blue regions. So if we look at some of the expected losses, and we're looking out to 2100 here, but these losses could exceed 50 billion economically between road damage and tax revenue lost as sea level rise starts to impact those coastal properties, which are very highly valued and a big part of the municipal budgets from the property on the property tax side, through the impact to local roadways. If we look, climate's one challenge, housing is the other one. As I've mentioned, we've got rising prices and declining inventory. This chart's pretty stark, and it shows you from June 2019 through June 2023. We have the median sales price in 2019 at just under 450,000. It's at 730 now. And during the same time, 2019, we would generally have about 2,000 properties on the market in the inventory. And currently we have less than 400 Cape-wide. So to sum it up, the housing costs are too high, especially when we look at, the overall median household income on the Cape is 90,000. For renters, it's almost half of that. But you really need to be a family earning 210,000 or more to even think about getting into the real estate market for a single family home on the Cape. So wages are also not keeping up. So we look at the median sales prices for those single family homes, which since 2019 have increased by 64%, but wages have only increased by 24%. So the housing supply is also insufficient. There are more than 17,800, so almost 18,000 short-term rentals. So 37% of the housing stock on the Cape are second homes. That's been a fairly consistent number for a long time. But since the advent of Airbnb and VRBO, so many more of those people are renting out those second homes at times when they used to be vacant. And so we've got over 18,000 short-term rentals now. And while that does charge the seasonal economy, it certainly creates some issues because those are single family homes in neighborhoods on Title V systems. And so it's making some of the challenges we see worse. We also have seen over the last several years, less than a 1% vacancy rate for rentals when 7% is really considered healthy. And if it's easy to understand why we have so many short-term rentals, because basically you could rent your house short-term for 2 months and make the same amount of money you would make renting it year-round. So the estimated housing demand is projected to outpace the supply by 11,000 to nearly 22,000 housing units by 2035. And only 2% of the region is zoned to allow housing development, with more than 2 units to be built by right. So that is the overall context of the economy and some of the challenges we're facing broadly. But when we get into the blue economy, the history of Cape Cod's economy relates directly to surrounding bodies of water and the marine life that lives there. So today, marine research and preservation organizations based in the region are globally recognized for their contributions to science and technology, further highlighting the region's dependency on surrounding waterways. Cape Cod's most utilized mass transit are ferries. So to support and draw the attention to our region's strong relationship with the water, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce established the Cape Cod Blue Economy Foundation in 2017. The mission of the Blue Economy Foundation is to grow the region's economy in a sustainable and balanced way, focusing on protecting and promoting our waters and coastal resources. So recognizing that the Cape Cod's region's environment is its economy, and we talk about this all the time at the Chamber. The economy really is the environment is our economy. But what we're trying to do with the Blue Economy Foundation is to create a new regional identity that's really focused on the pride that we have in our water and coastal resources and supports this sustainable year-round economy for its residents. And the slide there is from the Blue Economy Project report that we put out, I think in 2017. And it shows you the percentage of total revenues and the percentage of total employees and percentage of total businesses that are blue and driving the economy on the Cape and the islands. So just to give you a little bit.
From the Voyager satellite photograph taken 6 million miles away, Carl Sagan referred to our Earth and home as the pale blue dot. Blue is a color that not only surrounds us, but sustains and defines us. Zooming into the Cape Cod region, water drives the economy. Everywhere you look, you see the blue economy, from the oyster farms in Cape Cod Bay and commercial fishing fleets in Plymouth, Chatham, Menemsha, and Provincetown, to the ferries in Hyannis, the boatyards in Pocasset, and groundbreaking scientific exploration and innovation in Woods Hole. The Cape Cod Blue Economy Project has 3 main objectives. 1, support a vibrant maritime and technology economy. 2, demonstrate how a healthy environment builds healthy economies. And 3, develop a prepared and educated workforce. While the Cape Cod region is world-renowned for its beautiful beaches and picturesque landscapes, few realize Cape Cod and the islands in nearby southern Plymouth County are the epicenter of a vibrant water economy, with a diverse array of businesses, organizations, and individuals whose livelihoods are inherently connected to the water. The environment is our economy. The Cape region's history is storied, with tales of seafaring explorers, pirates, shipbuilders, whalers, fishermen, and mariners. Since the 1600s, Cape Cod's industries have relied upon the sea for their welfare and survival. Cape Cod's regional blue economy ranges from operations that are directly dependent on the water to those that grow from and support a robust blue economy. The region's educational workforce is derived from high-performing K-12 schools, one of the nation's few maritime academies, and the world's leader in marine science and technology. Coupled with a robust cluster of companies and higher education institutions, both on Cape Cod and in the Boston-Cambridge metro area, the Cape Cod region is the epicenter of blue. Cape Cod's young professionals appreciate the region's thriving arts, culture, and culinary scene, along with outdoor activities on over 1,000 miles of coastline, from kite surfing to simply unwinding at the beach. Building on existing sustainable tourism, world-class marine research, and land use planning dedicated to preserving our environment and quality of life, our effort aims for full inclusion with existing economic efforts in the region. So whether you're an entrepreneur investing in your business, a retiree ready to enjoy a new phase of your life, or a young professional seeking opportunity in a forward-thinking community, our region has it. There is a vibrant culture of blue waiting for the next generation of visionary talent to help make this corner of the pale blue dot a thriving resource for other marine-based economies to learn from and flourish. Please join us now. From the Voyager satellite photograph.
So that that video, I think, sums up the blue economy better than I can do, especially today. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather and afraid I'm going to lose my voice. But just to go into some of the blue economy characteristics, this is a screenshot from our economic development dashboard that lives on the Cape Cod Chamber's website. And you can see on the blue economy that marinas, shell fishing, environment and conservation wildlife organizations, fin fish, boat dealers, that makes up a bulk of the activity that we see on the blue economy side. There's a number of jobs there. And those green, the green bars that you see there really show you the concentration of that particular industry on the Cape compared to the concentration of that industry nationwide. And so you can see the passenger transportation line is really sort of a lot of what we do here on the Cape compared to the rest of the country, most of which doesn't have a coastline. So that's the blue economy. And we can take any questions on that, but the Cape Cod economy is primarily blue. And what we try to look at the blue economy are dark blue industries, medium blue industries, and light blue industries. So those dark blue industries are more the marine tech, those industries that really touch the water and rely on the water for their economic existence. Then there's the medium blue industries, and tourism really falls in that medium blue category. And so we're gonna spend some time on the tourism economy, just a couple minutes here. So we're dependent on a lot of the infrastructure there. Cape Cod Canal, once again, surrounded by water. Tourism shapes the Cape's regional identity, its economy, and the daily lives of the residents and business owners that live here. And at the Chamber, we're always looking to how we can leverage tourism activity to help businesses succeed. So we're interested in the data. Who visits Cape Cod? What do they do while they're here? How long do they stay? How much money do they spend? How does activity vary by season? And any other opportunities we might have to help businesses succeed. So when we look at these tourism economy indicators, we're really looking at lodging occupancy and traditional lodging organizations like hotels and motels, as well as short-term rentals. The average daily rate people are paying to stay there, the lodging supply and demand, visitor spending. We are always surveying our members to get business feedback. We're also monitor the rooms and meals taxes. And that gives us a very good indication of how busy we were and what kind of economic impact we've had. And we're also now monitoring short-term rental registrations. So Cape Cod's tourism impact, if we look at the visitation, the spending, as I mentioned earlier, over 5 million visitors per year. And even in the Commonwealth in Massachusetts, tourism is the third largest industry with $69 billion in economic impact last year. In 2022, the Cape Cod's tourism economy generated $181 million in state and local tax receipts. So we're a profit center, really, for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We send more to Beacon Hill in state and local tax receipts than we receive back in unrestricted local aid. So we're a good deal for the state. If we look at the impact and we're concentrate on labor and workforce, as I mentioned earlier, the employment on Cape Cod increases by an average of 33% from winter to summer. On Cape Cod, tourism-related industries employ 12,000 workers directly. So if we look at the top industries, as we looked at earlier, 4 out of 5 of the top industries on Cape Cod are directly linked to the tourism and second homeowner economies. And so looking at last summer, just to sort of recap how things are going on the Cape with the tourism economy, we really had banner years in 2021 and 22. Even though tourism was the #1 impacted industry nationwide during the pandemic, we did really well because we're not a resort community, we're a second homeowner community. And a lot of people chose to shelter here. We saw a lot of turnover in the housing market with people buying second homes. So in 2023, businesses really expected a lower visitation numbers. Instead, the data reflects resiliency and growth in the tourism economy. And the shoulder season months continue to see growth. June has become a very strong month for us, as well as September. And the peak months of July and August saw slight decreases in 2023, but it's really more of a leveling out effect. So if we look at traditional lodging occupancy in 2019, pre-pandemic, 2021, and 2023, so they remain similar, very resilient, very strong, not tremendously impacted by the pandemic the way the rest of the country was. That darker line there is the 2023 line, and you can see how it's really starting to even out in the shoulder seasons, which is a good thing for businesses. Trying to staff up and run a business that spikes so much in the summer, going from 230,000 year-round population to tripling in the summer. That's really hard to account for as a business year-round. But looking at short-term rental occupancy, it also tracks similarly. So we see there's been a little bit of a dip in the late summer, but sort of an increase in the earlier spring months. And a lot of that probably has to do with pricing and average daily rates. So short-term rental market growth, the rental supply is increasing. So there is, even this year, more availability in the short-term rental market, but that's because there are more units available. Demand and prices are also on the rise. Short-term rental registrations have grown by 46.8%, so almost 50% since 2021. So we had 12,000 short-term rentals registered in 2021, almost 18,000 in 2023. So at the Chamber, we're interested in the data and try to get a sense of where we're going, why people come here, where they spend money. So we did a case study looking at Memorial Day in 2023. Visitor spending was up 133% compared to the 4 weeks prior. Restaurants, bars, nightlife, and gas stations saw the largest increase, meaning people are still driving to come here. But outdoor recreation was by far the biggest draw. So the geolocation data shows 35% of the activity was associated with locations like the Cape Cod National Seashore and Nickerson State Park. And so just to give a sense of that activity, what you're looking at now is sort of the Cape, and we've got blue dots, red dots, and green dots. And so the blue dots are in-state visitors, the red dots are out-of-state visitors, and the green dots are residents. And you can see as we move through Memorial Day weekend, how busy we get. And where it becomes white, that's where all those dots are sort of crossing over on each other. So a lot of activity on Memorial Day last year. You can see how busy it gets. And for each one of these dots, it gives us information back on basically where they're staying, how much money they're spending, where they go to eat. So we are entering this data-rich environment that's really helping us guide our members and give them better information, but it gives us better feedback of the region and why people come here. And those things we really need to protect in order to maintain the economy long term. So in 2024, we're looking at tourism forecast challenges. Labor supply continues to be the top challenge, and it is directly tied to the housing crisis that we're having on the Cape and the islands. Infrastructure improvements, the Cape Cod bridge replacements, wastewater infrastructure, and local roads. A lot of traffic, and even off seasons now, because that's when we try to do most of the road repairs. Wastewater infrastructure, all 15 towns are really moving on wastewater. We have a Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund that was set up in 2018. And it was set up really to handle about $80 million worth of projects annually. And it provides the towns and municipalities with a 25% reimbursement and subsidy of the wastewater improvements that they're making. We saw $500 million worth of requests this year. And we're also seeing increased competition in the tourism sector, both within other parts of the state and the larger national region. So the 2024 tourism forecast, looking at trends and opportunities, that pandemic population growth is holding strong. Those people that sort of moved here during the pandemic, the resilience of the Cape as a top tier destination, we remain very strong, very resilient. And the tourism sector forecasting trends toward outdoor experiences and are trending definitely towards outdoor experiences and family-oriented travel. We are losing some of our traditional lodging capacity as hotels and motels. We're losing rooms as we're gaining more short-term rentals. It's not necessarily a great thing long-term, but we're monitoring that. So the forecast, we're going to see increased year-round activity, that leveling out of the seasonal activity and the shoulder season growth and occupancy and average daily rate. The larger resorts are opening year-round. Wauquasit and Harwich now on the Atlantic coast is open year-round, as well as Chatham Bars Inn and Ocean Edge and Brewster. So we're also seeing increased demand for holiday events and attractions. You know, the Gardens Aglow event at Heritage Museum and Gardens, Main Street holiday strolls, Holly Folly Weekend in Provincetown, all very well attended. And just to make that case, these are two still shots. That Memorial Day weekend 2023 that we showed you earlier, and we're showing you on the right-hand side the first weekend in December. So this season is extending almost right through the holidays at this point, and we are very busy. The difference is on the right-hand side, we see a lot more in-state residents and local residents that are making visits to these attractions, whereas on Memorial Day weekend, we're seeing a lot more out-of-state people that are coming. And you can see in the water the activity that's happening on the water as well. This is just as a close-up on that first weekend of December, where we saw significant visitor and local activity enhanced by the large resorts going year-round. The total spending increased 5% over the previous year of 2022. In-state day trippers really came primarily from Plymouth County, Norfolk County, and Dukes County, and the out-of-state overnight visitation originated via Logan Airport. So you see the blue lines, and these are where people, where they came from and where they went to. So those are in-state travelers or local travelers. That big red line from Logan Airport are really out-of-state travelers who apparently are going to Mashpee Commons. So the state of the Cape Cod tourism economy is resilient through the pandemic restrictions, major construction, poor weather, inflation, labor, supply issues, and more. We're starting to see the return of international travel, and increased spending from competing designations means we have to do more there. We have to compete for those international travelers. And the building blocks for a more year-round economy are already there. They just need to be resourced. So what we're working on in 2024, we continue to help hospitality and tourism businesses succeed through these strategic marketing, advocacy, and membership benefits. We're advocating for critical investments in infrastructure, environmental protection, and business and economic development. and identifying opportunities to facilitate that year-round activity and draw interest to undervisited areas on the Cape. So that's really where our focus is. And I think you can see where Nantucket Sound is just an absolutely integral part of this overall economy, and in particular the blue economy, and really helps drive tourism, which is the #1 industry on the Cape in total. So that is where we're at. I hope that gave you some information about the broader context of the Cape Cod economy, some information on what the blue economy is and what we're doing with the Blue Economy Foundation, and what we continue to do to market Cape Cod to the rest of the world and drive this tourism economy. And that's what I have for a presentation. So I thank you for your attention, and happy to answer any questions.
That was great, Paul. A lot of facts and figures. I learned a lot. Sure, our audience did also. I have a few questions for you. I think early on in your presentation, you mentioned that we had about a 14% increase in population here. And the question is, what has really driven that growth?
What has, it's interesting to see what has driven the growth, because if we go back to 2000 and 2010, we saw a 3% decrease from 2000 in population. We've seen a 6% increase since then. And a lot of that had to do with some was driven by the pandemic, people buying second homes here. But the census counting really stopped midway pandemic, so I don't think it really completely captured all of the pandemic activity on the residential side. But people are moving here because of the quality of life. And especially with remote work options available now, we see a lot more people that are choosing to live in places because of that quality of life. And so that's what we're seeing on the Cape. And really, when we talk about quality of life and what people want on the Cape, we're talking about outdoor recreation and the water. That's really what drives people here. And the people that are here, even the second homeowners, if they're not here year round, they have a stake in this community and they care deeply about it.
Okay, thank you. Mary is asking, for the increase in short-term rental registrations, how much do you think is increased compliance versus new units?
Yeah, no, it is. A lot of it is increased compliance and more registration. So it's not that there are more individual units being built, it's that more of those second homes are being used and rented out on a short-term basis. Where, traditionally, if you go back 10, 15, 20 years, a lot of those second homes remained vacant for a lot of the year when the homeowner wasn't using it themselves. Now it's become so easy to rent them out. That's where we're seeing the growth in short-term rentals. So it doesn't mean that there are new houses, just more of that 37% of the housing stock are being used as short-term rentals. So it is compliance as well as availability.
I had a question. You had mentioned early on also that there were 8 designated cultural districts. I was wondering if you could expand on those and where they are and what they are.
They are. I wish I had the map. There are cultural districts of different sorts. I'm not going to be able to list them all from the top of my head, but I can send you a map that shows you all of them and where they are.
And what defines a cultural district?
Well, there are different designations. Some of it are state designations through the Massachusetts Cultural Council. And so these are areas that you demonstrate there's enough cultural activity happening there, and then you qualify for some state resources. Some of them are federal and related to the Wampanoag tribe.
Okay. I have a question from Peter. He is asking, are there, and if so, what are the new technologies or approaches that will help further drive the growth of the blue economy here?
Yeah, there are. We have a lot of the marine tech concentration down in Woods Hole with WHOI and the Mass Biological Labs that have been there for, MBL's been there for over 150 years. And Woods Hole is really the only deep water port that we have on the Cape. So a lot of that marine technology is being driven in that Woods Hole area. But we're also seeing, increase in aquaculture. So we've got an aquaculture research center on the Cape that produces a lot of the spat. Most of the shellfish that's grown on the Cape is grown by permits that are issued by the towns. So that becomes a big part of the blue economy too. But there's really an overall blue economy corridor that goes from Narragansett Bay through southeastern Massachusetts, the Cape, Boston, really up to Gloucester. And we're seeing a lot of investment in technology there. And we're seeing some spinoffs from Boston where we're getting some of the innovative technologies related to housing construction, for example, in coastal areas, so that homes can be more robust and weather the impacts of climate change easier. But they don't have enough space in the greater Boston area to develop this. So we're starting to see interest from some of those companies that locating on the Cape, so that they can build the product and use it here almost in a test facility.
Okay. Bob says, thanks so much, Paul. Do you have any sense regarding the percentage of short-term rentals that are truly second homes versus investment properties owned multiply by larger investors? Their impact is certainly changing traditional feel of life on Cape Cod at any season of the year. And I know this has been a controversial issue here on Nantucket and other other localities.
Yeah, no, it is, but that's a real tricky number to come up with. But we are working with some towns, like Provincetown has done a second homeowner and a short-term rental study. And one of the efforts in Provincetown they were considering is limiting the ownership of lodging organizations to 3 for one owner. So we're starting to see different ways to get at that information. I think we're going to be much more successful on a town-by-town basis, finding out that. But we saw a lot of pandemic prospecting in the real estate market, and it displaced a lot of year-round renters and a lot of the workforce. And it has had negative impacts in the community. I think that's obvious. So there are different approaches that I think different towns are taking, but getting a hold of that number is tricky, but we're working on it.
So I just got slipped to me a cheat sheet on cultural districts.
Oh,
So
good.
apparently there are 6 cultural districts on Cape Cod: Sandwich Glasstown, Barnstable Village, Harwich, Hyannis, High Arts, Orleans, Provincetown, and Wellfleet. And then 3 more, the Aquinas Circle and Vineyard Haven cultural districts on Martha's Vineyard, and the Nantucket Cultural District on Nantucket. So
Yes.
there we go. Now we know the answer. Okay. I have one more question for you before we wrap up, unless somebody else has another. But you mentioned there were 5 million visitors annually, and I know you touched on this, but where are these visitors primarily coming from? Are they in-state, New England, international? Where are we seeing the biggest influx of visitors, particularly recently?
In-state, Cape Cod remains a drive-to sort of vacation location. So in-state we see a lot, and then from the greater New England area, and then New York. We see, especially on the Outer Cape, we see a lot of people from New York that have second homes on the Outer Cape, and it goes down into New Jersey, almost to the extent of Philadelphia. That's really where we're drawing most of the visitors from. But international travelers in 2018 accounted for about 18% of the overall economic impact on the Cape. So the international travelers spend more. So it seems the further people come, the more they spend when they're here.
Yeah, it's a small percentage of the overall, right? Takes a while to get here. So I'm wondering too, with the airport here increasing routes, I saw American just recently introduced service directly from DC. I wonder how that, or have you seen an increase in travel and growth because of the increase in routes?
Yeah, this will be the first summer that American's here, as well as JetBlue. And the Gateway Airport in Hyannis has plans for expanding the runways. So that, I think, increases the viability of some of the major carriers coming here directly. So I think we're going to see increased air travel.
Yep, certainly easier way to get here than to drive to Logan or TF Green and do that aspect.
The bridges are a whole different presentation.
Yes, I'm sure, such as short-term rentals probably could be as well. So
yes.
Anyway, thank you so much, Paul. We really appreciated you taking the time to educate us a bit more on the blue economy and overall tourism and how that is growing here on the Cape and Islands. So thank you. very much.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for joining. Just a couple things. We encourage you to stay in touch. You can reach me directly at audra@saveoursound.org. You can visit our website if you want any more information, if you're interested in getting more in depth about our effort to protect the sound as a National Historic Landmark. I'm more than happy to come to a group that you might be a member of to speak. So please keep in touch. And our next webinar will be Thursday, July 11th at 6 p.m. again. And it will be with award-winning author and journalist George Michelson Foy. And he's going to be discussing a very different topic, which is rum runners and smugglers on Cape Cod and Nantucket Sound. So if you're interested in that, visit our website, saveoursound.org/ACONS, which stands for a Celebration of Nantucket Sound. So thank you for joining us and hope to see you next month. Have a good evening.